in the corporate sector. And boy, my previous bosses in corporate America aren't going to like me for saying that. But it's really true what it is. It's corporate socialism.
Well, it's socialized losses and privatized gains.
Yes, exactly.
All the time.
Transfer the gains to the individuals, socialize the losses through what? The bond market, the stock market, everything.
Yeah.
All of that goes under the protective umbrella of the corporation, which is very hard to pierce that veil. We've taught in business school. But guess who's making all the money? The people that run it. They take their money out in terms of benefits, stock, compensation, all that kind of stuff, lifestyle the company provides them, company car, that kind of thing. And they take it out. And if the company goes kaboom, this is something we also learned in business school. They actually had a term for it. This is the mid-90s. It's called a golden parachute.
Yep.
So the golden parachute is a way to make sure you get your money after you screw all the employees, all the shareholders, and all the consumers of your product.
Welcome to Gold Silver Pros, where you'll learn the ins and outs of the gold and silver markets. Searching for the best precious metals deal? Our affiliates are of the utmost trust, quality, and highest customer service in the industry. Shop with our trusted partner, 𝙂𝙋𝙊𝙍𝙊𝙎. Access special deals on silver, gold, and platinum through our website or call 307-264-9441.
Hey everybody, it's Rob Kientz at goldsilverpros.com, and guess what? I have one of my best friends in the business on with me to talk about the goofy Fed and what's going on there with inflation and their complete ineptitude. It is Ian Everard from 𝙂𝙂𝙊𝙍𝙊𝙎. How are you doing today, Ian?
I'm good, thanks, Rob. And yourself?
Doing very well. It is super hot in Texas. We did have reports of some brownouts kind of close to me, short term, but not the length of brownouts that we had last year. So I guess we're doing okay from an energy grid perspective. We'll see what happens. I'm just sitting here in my comfortably air-conditioned apartment, not going anywhere, trying to stay out of the heat. And I hear, Ian, that you've had quite a bit of heat this week as well.
Yeah, we got into the 80s, Rob.
In the 80s. Oh, my goodness. You breaking out the bathing suit and going down to the swimming hole?
Still had a ground frost yesterday morning.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah, it suits me. You're growing up in the UK, never getting too hot, really. Yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Have you read that
Fiat
book?
Money Inflation in France. Yes.
So,
I've had that book recommended to me by several people. It's a really good, I haven't read it, but I'm told it's a really good.
Yeah. So it was authored by Andrew Dickinson White. He was a co-founder of Cornell University 100 years ago to give lectures. So basically he turned a lecture series into a short book. You can read it. I'm a slow reader. It took me about 2 hours to read it. And it tells us how France did this inflationary destruction process twice in a period of 70 years.
Yeah.
Twice. And France has never recovered. France should be as powerful, if not more powerful, than Germany. Generally incredibly smart, incredibly creative people, incredibly rich natural resources, incredible history, and yet it's never recovered from destroying their currency twice in under a century.
So all of this, Ian, points to the fact that if you don't have primary wealth, you don't have real
You're
wealth.
stuffed.
And I would even challenge, I'm an investor in a lot of things. I've invested in real estate, crypto, all that kind of stuff. I would even challenge that real estate is not primary wealth, because if you own properties and they crash and you lose that paper value, but you still got that mortgage and people can go bankrupt. And I know that because during 2008, 2009, during the crash, a lot of the real estate investors I know were buying other people's houses and apartment complexes because they couldn't afford them anymore. And they made an absolute killing. That's when you buy when blood's in the streets, right? So primary wealth is gold and silver. It's not anything else. You could argue farmland, maybe, if you take out the counterparty risk of taxes and other predatory laws by the local municipalities. But really, when you're talking about primary wealth, and Exter had this correct on his pyramid, it's gold and silver, period, and not much else. So in light of that, I think that we've talked about quite a bit for about 30 minutes. Let's get to your business, which is providing gold and silver to people as cheaply as possible. Talk about what you've got going on there.
Yeah, I'm pleased to announce that after a long association with silver-backed precious metals, I am taking out the only available US franchise to be able to slice and produce the 1,000-ounce bar slices. So I'm working with Jim Forsyth to get that production up and running. I have a colleague visiting me at the moment to learn the techniques, and they're going to train me up, because we anticipate, well, actually we don't anticipate, we know there's going to be an explosion in demand. And when there's an explosion in demand, the premiums go through the roof to scare the public off from buying. Now, you can't really blame the retailers, because it's the wholesalers who put the premiums up, and the retailers have to put an add-on to that to survive. But there's a deliberate constriction. There's not a free flow of retail size, particularly silver, available, or gold. And I think that's by design. I think we've had it taken out of our currency. 1970 was the last time we had silver in the $0.50. So you can't store metals that way. I mean, there's the exception. We can store nickel. So I'm pleased to announce we'll be developing that soon. This is a prototype. This is a hand-poured 10-ounce bar. We now have the machine cast 10-ounce bars. Yeah. We're doing those for $265 over spot, which I think is the lowest price 10-ounce bar in the universe.
Yeah.
And we still got everything else.
I don't know, Ian, you got to be careful saying that, because somewhere on Mars it may be cheaper.
Well, we'll send Bezos there to find out. Here we go. We can send. Yeah. And then, pleased to say, hopefully these are arriving today, are the Take Your Silver Back. I think every backer should have some of these. These are just classic. I think these will go down in history as highly collectible.
So Silverback Precious Metals is run by the same gentleman who runs Citizens for Sound Money. The guy was an engineer. I think he worked for NASA and was in the Armed Forces, I believe.
Yeah.
Was in the Armed Forces. He takes these 1,000-ounce bars off of Comex. He slices them and sells the slices. And then with the excess silver from those cuttings, and perhaps maybe he uses some extra he buys, he does bars and rounds with the logo on it. And we'll eventually get one for Gold Silver Pros too. We'll get a Gold Silver Pros coin for sure. But he's doing this, on his own, has done a really good job of it. But he and you have a similar business plan. It's just to provide. Real quick, can you describe how you guys do that? Because I think this is important for people to understand. When we say you've got the lowest prices, how do you get there over like an APMEX or some of these other guys?
Well, on the processing the 1,000-ounce bars, this is a slice. So that's just over a kilo slice. It's pretty economical, the actual machining. So we buy 1,000-ounce bars at the lowest price we can find. So our base costs and our machining costs are very low, and there's no change. So we're not paying for a mint and all of those overheads to do that. And the same on the 10-ounce. This is what they use the shavings from. They make these beautiful, I think, amazing hand-poured 10-ounce rounds. So that's a process, and the fundamental reason behind it was to be able to provide a continuous supply when the normal premiums skyrocket. I mean, twice, I've been in business 2 years now doing this, twice I've seen premiums spike. And the first spike, on a 100-ounce bar, the premiums went to $5. $5 on a 100-ounce bar. So this is a way we can ensure every last drop of silver that is physically available, the last will be the 1,000-ounce bars. Because when the Comex refuse authorized participants the 1,000-ounce bars, we know their cupboards are bare, and then there is no ceiling on the price of silver. And that day will come. Fundamentally, it will come. There's enough people now know the fundamentals, thanks to people like Chris Marcus and his book, The Big Silver Short. You just look at all of the facts, the production falling, the usage increasing, and how tiny a market silver is. $20 billion worth of mined a year. That's the whole world output. One individual could buy that. Elon Musk could buy it too.
Is that like 1 share of Tesla or 2 shares of Tesla?
Maybe in an Amazon.
I mean, I'm joking, but yeah, the silver market is
It's
small.
tiny.
And not only on those slices, Ian, but you can get like kilo bars, or sometimes you get other deals like 40% Kennedy.
Yeah.
How do you get those for cheaper than everybody else? How are you maintaining lower prices than everybody else?
I want to make a living doing this. I'm not trying to get rich doing it. I keep my overheads low. I'm building the business. As I scale it up, no doubt there'll be hurdles as I need more employees and larger premises, but that's my problem. It shouldn't be the client's problem having to pay higher and higher premiums. At the moment, the spread is incredibly high. I think a lot of the retail people are charging $2, $3 over wholesale on a 1 ounce coin. Or, and on small quantities, the small bar gets hit excessively hard. So I always endeavor, if I'm selling just a handful of coins, to give the 500 or 1,000 coin rate, because that's, I am a stacker, but I was buying from the online companies, and I was always trying to find a deal. And if you remember that dip, when we dipped down to $11 for a day, you couldn't buy silver online. No one was selling it for.
No, they just took it off and said, "Forget this. We're not selling to you for."
And this will happen again. So hopefully I'll be prepared alongside with silver, working with Silverback to increase the amount available. But I'd strongly recommend anybody who's watching this who is a stacker or is thinking of stacking, get to know your dealer now. Get that relationship, because these big sites will just turn off. The last mini squeeze we had when we hit $27, I had wholesalers said, "That's it, we're shut for the day. Call back in a day or two. We might sell you something." And this can happen in minutes. It sounds like we're exaggerating. It sounds like we're crying wolf, but the wolf did come. The wolf is coming. We will run out of silver. And I think on Extra's period.
Well, to that point, Mike Say, who's a good friend of mine and channel moderator for YouTube, probably will be monitoring this video when it's out every single day. And now he's got it to where he's got several reports, and you get really detailed charts and stuff. There has been a huge amount of now both gold and silver flowing out of the Comex. It was just silver. Now it's gold and silver. So big monies are coming in, because that's an industrial market, and that's not a small market. That's not for retail people. That's not for people with, $20,000. That is for people with big money. To go take delivery off the Comex. And we showed in Rafi's video, it's really hard to get delivery off of there. There's only 1 or 2 brokers that do it, and you got to be one of these big boys. So it can be difficult to get that stuff off, but it's flying off. And whatever inventories people think is sitting in America ain't sitting in America, at least to the level they think it is.
Yeah. Well, no one's selling in retail that I know of. I think I've had one client this year sold a 100-ounce bar. They didn't buy it from me, but they contacted me and I bought it off them. So out of millions of dollars of sales, 100-ounce bar purchased on the secondary market. I guess the coin shops do a bit better. No one's ringing me up saying, "Buy my silver."
I got a question for you. If you had a big guy come in, relatively big retail investor, and they want $200,000 in silver, can you provide it?
Yes.
What about $500,000 in silver? Can you provide it?
I'd have to be careful where I place.
You have to be careful because of inventories?
It's unspoken, but if an authorized participant asks for too many bars, they can get frustrated in their request. So if they typically have 100 bars a month, 20 contracts, and they ask for 300, they can get squeezed, i.e. next month they'll get half their quota.
because essentially there's not enough really to go around.
Yeah.
That's essentially what we're saying. Because if there were enough to go around, they'd give you whatever you wanted.
Well,
they're going to make money off.
Exactly. Yeah. And we had this. Do you remember back at the Silver Symposium when I asked Jeffrey Christian why the refiners were buying 1,000-ounce bars and reselling them? And he went off on a trailer distraction, maligning Andrew Maguire, and bringing up his past, bringing up his mistakes.
And Mike Maloney, that's where I spoke up, and we had that exchange.
It was Andrew Maguire he maligned. He said, "Oh, he used to be a used car salesman. He abandoned his wife, doesn't talk to his daughter."
Yep.
Did everything apart from answer my question, and he sort of answered, "I'll do it because they can make money." But surely they make more money by taking raw silver they buy below spot, turning it into 1,000-ounce bars, and they sell them above spot.
That is because the refiners get it from the miners, and there's a supply deficit. Yeah. Last year, every November, Silver Institute produces their preview for the next year. Last November, they said they expected the market to be 110 million ounces of silver short this year, meaning what the miners are currently producing versus what we're currently demanding. Not talking about stockpiles, but current demand, current supply. Well, now I'm hearing where the Silver Institute is now changing their numbers to hide that, by the way, because it's now become apparent that there's not that much silver liquidity. You've said it. If you go to your wholesalers and you make an abnormally large buy, they could kind of say, well, we'll give you this.
Yeah.
Comex, the silver's flowing off the Comex. You have refiners buying it from the exchanges instead of from the miners because he can't get it. So we know right now there's a current, I mean, as of right now, point in time, silver shortage between what's produced, what you can get a hold of. And what we're seeing is like the Comex and other places starting to lose inventories. Those are your stockpiles. Now, there's also a retail stockpile. Nobody knows how much of that's available. But like you said, nobody's selling it back to you. Why would they at 21, 22 bucks? Yeah. Nobody in their right mind is going to sell silver 21, 22 unless you have an emergency and you're paying a hospital bill, something along those lines. You got to pay your rent. So all signs point toward a coming silver shortage, and we haven't even hit the financial crisis yet. What happens when stuff gets real? And let's say the Fed gets to the 3.8% target Fed funds rate they want at the end of the year, and lending starts to dry up. We have a repo issue. The bond market starts to freak out. And one hedge fund or one big investor says, I want to take silver. What happens to silver? It's gone like that. Because we saw last year in 3 days, the last 110 million ounces came out of the London market for SLV. And they said 3 or 4 more days like that, and we're bankrupt. And that was last year when there was a hell of a lot more. The retail demand has gone up. Mine supply has come down. How many days is it? And that was a retail run. That wasn't a big hedge fund. That wasn't a company. That wasn't Samsung or Apple. It was freaking retail demand on an ETF that almost bankrupted the London silver market, by the way, which is where almost all the ETFs store their silver. So think about this in your mind. If you had played the silver market by buying ETF, and they said that they were almost out of silver last year after a 3-day run, how confident do you feel if you're in one of those ETFs that they actually have your silver? And that goes back to the point we made earlier in primary wealth is in your hands. It's the physical. It's not a derivative, right? Am I wrong on that? Am I ranting for no reason, or have I put all this together?
Yeah. No, not at all. Not at all. There's many things you put there. Let's go back. One, the Silver Institute. They do amazing work. Great detail, real factual stuff. But they fudge the recycling. They guess what the recycling amount is. Yeah. And we've been lied to about recycling when they shut down the Manhattan Project and all of that silver, the 2 billion ounces, they flooded it into the market and they called it recycling and mine production. So they've lied. The government's lied to us, and institutions have lied to us basically about where the silver comes from.
They never lie. Ian,
So
don't you understand? They never lie. They always tell us the truth. We're all conspiracy theorists, Ian. I'm going to give the YouTube algorithm something to choke on. I'm going to say we're all conspiracy theorists. You know, the government is always correct.
Of course.
Reagan was wrong. You want the government showing up to your front door trying to help you. This is all good.
Yeah.
You know, we're being paranoid, Ian, over here.
Let's throw something else in then. JP Morgan are liars.
We're going to get banned now because we mentioned JP Morgan.
They've been prosecuted. Yeah. Well, they're the custodians for SLV.
Ian, that's a non-supported
Was it
viewpoint. We're going to have to correct that on Twitter and YouTube. We can't allow the truth out. We're going to get a banner across our video, the truth about the silver market.
So that
and it's going to be some garbage from Jeffrey Christian or one of these other morons or banker, what do you call them? Banker stooges.
Well, that 110 million ounces never got moved physically. If somebody did an infographic of how many semis full of silver it would have taken to move to the vault, that didn't happen.
You know what they did, Ian? They took their HSBC or whatever it was. They just changed stickies, right? Here, you change these stickies, I'll change these stickies, and we're all good. Problem is they've got so many stickies on the same bar, I couldn't find the bar.
Every
bank owns every bar. Don't worry, it's not going to be an issue. Don't worry, it's all good.
Probably the scrap paper value of the Post-it notes stuck on the bars is worth more than the bar.
That's right. 3M with the Post-it notes has made so much more money because their revenues went up in the last quarter because of all the Post-it notes being used to rehypothecate silver sitting in London. Yeah, it's all a big joke, and we're laughing and having fun. It's a serious issue, Ian, because it's primary wealth, and like you said, from the top of Extra's pyramid down, if you go back earlier in the video when we had it up, seeing that in the markets, and when they crash down, what you're left with is just a handful of real wealth, and it does a couple things. One, it bankrupts everybody and causes mass issues with people being able to buy food, pay rent, live. You know, my parents went through the Great Depression. I know what happens when stuff hits the fan, the financial markets. It gets nasty. But not only that, it leaves this concentration of wealth in the hands of people who own primary wealth, which is gold and silver. And that's why you want to own it. And people bitching right now that gold and silver is not going up. Well, look at the rest of the markets. They're cratering. Yeah. The derivatives are cratering. Everything that we've said about Extra's pyramid, go look at any, Charles Schwab. Go look at any of this fucking garbage. Okay? It's all crashing, and we even haven't had the big event yet. We just had a couple of points of, like 1 point of interest rate, and the whole thing is going to crap, to hell in a handbasket, as my grandmother would say. That's proof positive. So if you're in gold and silver and you're frustrated the price isn't going up, that's the wrong way to look at it. What you should be frustrated is that the derivative market just destroyed your fucking wealth that you've been earning your entire life. Excuse my language. I get excited about this. All the wealth that you thought you had working your butt off, exchanging your labor since the time that you're old enough to hold a job to now is evaporating before your eyes. Okay. Gold and silver are holding steady because they're primary wealth. And they will go up in terms of the dollar as the dollar starts to crash. That's the next stage. If people looking at the current market can't see that and can't see Extra's pyramid and how valuable just that one graphic is towards helping you maintain your wealth. I mean, if you know nothing, if you listen to nothing else we've ever said, take to heart Extra's pyramid because it's the truth. And we're seeing it play out in front of our eyes right now.
Yeah. And think, Rob, in America, we're in such a blessed situation. Gold is up 10% in pound sterling.
Yeah.
Gold is up 10% this year. When
it's up more in China, where they don't play the derivative games.
Yeah. So we're in this artificial situation where the dollar is gaining against other currencies and commodities are priced in the dollar.
Yeah.
So this is like a Blue Cross. Do you have Blue Cross sales here or something? The extra
Yeah, we do.
reductions.
Yeah.
It reduced the price in dollars temporarily. Okay. This it's making it easier than ever for Americans to buy gold and silver. The very thing they don't want us to do, they're making it easier for us to do because the dollar, the dollar milkshake theory is partially correct. The dollar will gain against other currencies as people try.
Until it doesn't. It's correct until the dollar no longer gains because it's a fiat currency. So all fiat currencies go away. The dollar milkshake will work until that point at which it doesn't. It'll be exactly correct until the point it's exactly in.
So it's on sale. So buy it.
So last thoughts, Ian, gold and silver haven't sold off like stocks and Bitcoin and all that other garbage. Aren't having, the rising interest bonds because it makes your bond worth less when the interest rate goes up. And you don't want to buy into a rising rate environment of bonds because that guarantees a loss in the future, right?
Yeah.
So gold and silver, gold's not at 2,500, silver's not at 50 because the prices aren't responding, Ian. Remember, they're determined by the derivative markets. That's really the answer. But prices aren't responding. Talk to me about the negative sentiment on gold and silver. Should people be negative towards them because they haven't exploded up?
No, I mean, I remember the journey back in 2020 when we went down to $11. And a friend was asking me, oh my gosh, why did you get me to buy silver? This was before I started the business. And I said, every fundamental's still in place and more have been added. So that was 2 years ago. How much funny money have we created since then? How many trillions? I think it's 20 trillion worldwide.
Was it M0 or M1 that went up 5 times? I think it was M0 that went up 5 times and M1 went up a ridiculous amount in 1 year. Yeah.
Ridiculous. And then they changed how they recorded it. They changed the recording method to make it look less extreme.
Oh, of course. It's the government. Come on.
So, and sort of winding back to a little thing you said about how quickly this can happen. I think Japan is about to financially just implode, explode, whatever you want. You look at how they're trying to hold at 0.25%, and the same time, pretty well, repeatedly, it's spiked to 0.4. And if you look at how much the Bank of Japan is buying that 10-year now by creating more funny money.
You know what? They create it. They pay. Here's one branch of the government creating it, and then another branch pays. This.
Yeah. Now, when Japan collapses financially, it will.
All interconnected.
Europe will go.
Yeah.
But the chain of events, I think, will be Japan, then Europe. One medium-sized hedge fund in Europe could buy all of the physical silver and gold that
which
is available.
Just means when compared with everything else, gold and silver are undervalued.
Exactly. And
because you shouldn't be able to do that.
They can't come here and buy up all the American stuff.
They probably already are, Ian. All the stuff sitting in the eligible category of Comex is private storage. We don't know who it's owned by the United States. Private ownership, baby. And the banks are not legally required to divulge their account holders. It could be owned by anybody. All the gold and silver sitting on Comex, 90% of it could be owned by the Chinese, the Africans, the Brazilians, European, any combination thereof.
Yeah.
That's our nation's wealth. And it's probably owned by somebody else.
Let alone the 8,000 tons that hasn't been counted, 8,000 tons of gold in West Point and Fort Knox. That it was last counted in 1953, I think.
I'm a former auditor. You cannot rely on those numbers. I wouldn't go 6 months relying on those numbers without an audit report. Sure as hell wouldn't go 60 years.
Yeah. 70 years. Coming up 70 years next year since it was last counted.
Yeah, so, I may be 100 years old before they ever count that, or I may die, hopefully making our hand at the fact that the government has not audited our gold holdings. We'll have to see what happens. Anyway, Ian, this has been a good one. I think we're probably going to break this up into a couple of episodes. We had a lot of stuff going on. But thanks for returning back to the program, and thanks for providing people gold and silver cheaply, because That's what we need. And the system you have, I'm going to summarize this basically in one sentence. You've cut out some of the middlemen and you've taken out a bunch of the cost in order to be able to provide people precious metals more cheaply than just about anybody else. And it's already darn cheap compared to what it should be. In my opinion, there's no excuses. If you're thinking, if precious metal seems like something you want to do, there's no excuse for not diving in right now, because you're not going to get it probably cheaper than it is right now, at least not a lot going forward. And you're not going to get cheaper premiums than what Ian's able to provide based on the way he built the business. So if you're going to do it, and it's something that you've made that decision to do, I certainly think, Ian, your service is probably the best way to go.
Thank you, Rob. And just
thank you for joining the program. We will have you back on, Ian. We'll get back to our regularly scheduled stuff. We've taken a couple of weeks off for us doing business stuff, but we'll have you back on a regular basis. But thanks for what you do for people. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Rob, for all your help and assistance.
You're welcome. Until next time, you'll see us talking more about gold, silver, the Fed, and all the insanity going on in the financial markets. Remember, you can sign up for our free newsletter that comes out every Monday by going to our website, 𝙂𝙊𝙇𝘿 and clicking on that free newsletter button. Just provide your name and email. You can do burner accounts if you want. Doesn't matter, but just stick it in there, and you'll get that every Monday, and you'll get the best interviews on the channel. We have a couple of very special guests, very prominent figures in the gold and silver space who are going to be joining our channel in the next couple of weeks. We've got one of those interviews scheduled for the first week or so of July. Another one I'm trying to get scheduled. Stay tuned for that. And thanks everybody for joining the program. Until next time, this is Rob King of Gold Silver Pros.